I'm a 22-year-old female, my mom is 37, and I have 3 younger siblings, a 14-year-old sister, a 7-year-old sister, and a 4-year-old brother. The second oldest sibling and I have different dads from each other and the other 2 siblings. They and this upcoming baby all have the same dad, our stepdad. There are 3 dads in total, but only our stepdad is involved now. I was the babysitter and mom growing up. When my sister was born, I magically became the mom, despite not even being double digits. When the others came, I still was the mom. I didn't get to have fun, go out, or be a kid. My job in the house was to cook, clean, raise my siblings, and deal with our mom. She was incredibly immature growing up and loved to drink, party, spend money on luxuries, and not be a mom. She acts more like a mom now, but a lot of the work still falls on me. She robbed me of my childhood, and I'm very bitter about it. The only reason I lived at home for so long was because no one would or could take me in, and I felt that I could tolerate it all for free rent and food. It was a good deal for me then, but I'm 22 now. I'm done being a mom when I don't even have kids. Last year, my stepdad's parents died in a car accident, and as their only child, he got everything. We all moved into their home and got a bit of money under our belts, so I guess they decided to have a baby. When my mom announced it, I asked if she was serious. She confirmed and asked me if I still had my diaper-changing skills as a joke. I was silently livid. I dryly laughed and found some roommates online that night. The thought of wasting another 10+ years raising my siblings sounded like hell. She found out that I'm planning on leaving come August, and now she's irate, calling me every name under the sun and selfish. She got my siblings involved, and the youngest is crying, asking why I don't love them anymore and why I'm leaving. It's really low to use kids like that, and it hurts. I don't want to stay, but I don't want them to cry. I know I'm doing the right thing for myself, but is it the right thing for them? My mom never really parented growing up. She wouldn't, so I took over that role. I was the one who changed diapers and taught them their ABCs and all that. I was the one who cooked dinner and bathed them. I look at none of my siblings as siblings, but as my own kids, because that's what they basically are. I don't think she'll be able to do a good job. She and my stepdad rely on me heavily in that category. Am I the idiot for leaving? I need advice on how to get over this feeling and move on. To add, holy shoot, this kind of blew up when I wasn't expecting it to. Thanks everyone for the kind messages. You all are right, I need to go. My mom and stepdad need to figure it out. I'm going to talk to all 3 of my siblings and explain that me leaving is normal and a good thing. I'll always be a phone call away. I'm most worried about my 14-year-old sister, though, and will not hesitate to get authorities involved if I suspect she's going through what I went through or she tells me herself. I'll be giving her a different type of talk soon to try and prevent her from becoming the new mom. Thanks, everyone. If I update again, it'll be after I've already moved out. I really appreciate your support. It's giving me the strength to do what's right, even if it's hurting. My mom and stepdad can hire a babysitter with his inheritance if they really can't do it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Turn it right back around when your mother tries to weaponize your little siblings. Oh, mom needs my room for the new baby, so I have to go live somewhere else now because I'm all grown up. Make it her fault because it is her fault. Also, you know your 14-year-old sister is next in line, right? You need to talk to her about this and teach her how to contact Child Protective Services where you live if your mom continues her old behavior patterns. She'll be 15 when this new sibling arrives, right? That's 3 years until she's a legal adult. What I would do if I were you is start positioning yourself to take her in the minute she's in charge of her own destiny. Save as much as you can, make sure you have space for her, and get ready to be her landing place to help her get on her feet away from your mother. Comment 2. You tell the kids, I love you in my heart, no matter what, always. And you leave because you deserve a life that is not being a domestic servant to your mother's failed birth control philosophy. You being parentified at such a young age is a form of abuse. Sit down with your 14-year-old sister and explain what happened to you, and that she can't let it happen to her. Your mom will come after her next. It would be a very good idea to get a therapist to help you reframe exactly how badly you have been treated and why you need to leave. You can't help the other kids, really, until you help yourself first. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. So, I had the talk with my siblings. I sat them down and explained that me leaving is normal and a good thing. I told them that I'll always be a phone call away and that I love them very much. My 14-year-old sister took it the hardest. She cried and asked me why I was abandoning them. It broke my heart, but I reassured her that I wasn't abandoning them, just moving on with my life. I also had a separate talk with her, warning her about not becoming the new mom. I told her to focus on her studies and her own life, and that if things got too hard, she should call me immediately. The next day, my mom and stepdad had a huge fight. I overheard them arguing about me leaving. My mom was furious, saying that I was selfish and abandoning the family. My stepdad surprisingly defended me. He said that I had done more than enough and that it was time for me to live my own life. This was the first time I had ever heard him stand up to her like that. It gave me a bit of hope that maybe things could change. But then, something unexpected happened. My stepdad pulled me aside later that evening and revealed a secret that shook me to my core. He told me that he had been having an affair for the past year. He said that he felt trapped in his marriage and that the only reason he stayed was because of the kids. He begged me not to tell my mom, saying that it would destroy her and the family. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. On one hand, I felt like my mom deserved to know the truth. On the other hand, I didn't want to be the one to break up the family. I spent the next day in a daze, trying to process everything. I couldn't believe that my stepdad, who I had always thought of as a decent guy, was capable of something like this. I felt betrayed and angry, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe this was the push I needed to finally leave. I couldn't stay in a house full of lies and deceit. That night, I confronted my stepdad. I told him that I couldn't keep his secret. He begged me again, saying that he would end the affair and focus on his family. He promised that things would change and that he would step up as a father. I didn't know if I could believe him, but I agreed to give him a chance. I told him that if I saw any signs of him slipping up, I would tell my mom everything. The next few days were tense. My mom was still angry with me, but she seemed to sense that something was off. She kept asking me if everything was okay, and I had to lie and say that it was. My stepdad, true to his word, started to step up. He took on more responsibilities with the kids and even started cooking dinner. It was a small change, but it gave me a glimmer of hope. But then my 14-year-old sister came to me with a confession. She told me that she had seen our stepdad with another woman a few months ago. She had kept it a secret because she didn't want to cause any trouble. I felt a wave of anger and sadness wash over me. I knew that I couldn't keep this secret any longer. I had to tell my mom the truth. I sat my mom down and told her everything. She was devastated. She cried and screamed, and I felt a pang of guilt for being the one to break her heart. But I knew that it was the right thing to do. My stepdad tried to apologize, but my mom wasn't having it. She kicked him out of the house and filed for divorce the next day. The fallout was intense, my mom was a wreck, and my siblings were confused and scared. I tried to be there for them as much as I could, but I knew that I couldn't stay in that house any longer. I moved out a week later, leaving behind a family in shambles. As I settled into my new place, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. I felt a mix of emotions: relief, guilt, sadness, and hope. I knew that I had made the right decision for myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had abandoned my family. I kept in touch with my siblings, calling them every day to check in. My 14-year-old sister seemed to be handling things okay, but I could tell that she was struggling. I also started to think about my own childhood and how it had shaped me. I realized that I had been forced to grow up too fast, taking on responsibilities that no child should have to bear. I felt a deep sense of resentment towards my mom for putting me in that position. But I also felt a strange sense of gratitude. Those experiences had made me strong and resilient, and they had prepared me for the challenges that lay ahead. As I navigated my new life, I began to see a therapist to help me process everything. It was a slow and painful process, but it helped me to understand my own feelings and emotions. I started to let go of the anger and bitterness that I had been holding on to for so long. I began to focus on my own happiness and well-being, something that I had neglected for far too long. In the end, I knew that I had made the right decision. It wasn't easy, and it came with a lot of pain and heartache, but it was necessary. I had to break free from the toxic environment that I had been living in and start living my own life. And while the road ahead was uncertain, I felt a sense of hope and optimism that I hadn't felt in a long time. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for embarrassing my fiancé in front of friends after he took my car and debit card without asking? My fiancé Tom has a habit of taking my things without asking because he feels I should be able to do the same with his belongings. He's constantly saying, "You don't have to ask, just take it. What's mine is yours," whenever I ask to use anything of his. And he expects the same rule to apply when it comes to my belongings. I never agreed to this. In fact, I have voiced multiple times that it's rude not to ask, and have expressed irritation when he uses my things without permission. When it comes to small things, I get irritated because he never puts my items back where they belong, and then I have to go on a wild goose chase to find them, because he can't remember where he put them down either. He has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. For instance, he forgets all of his travel mugs in his vehicle, and instead of going to get them, he will just take mine until all the travel mugs are in his vehicle. But honestly, the main issue is money and my vehicle, to be honest. If he needs something and he doesn't have the money, he will just take my debit card without asking beforehand, because he would expect me to do the same with his debit card if I need something. Or recently, literally a week ago, I bought a brand new vehicle, and there are days when I wake up in the morning and he and my vehicle are gone because he's taken my vehicle to go to the gym instead of his, because mine is far better on gas. Or he went to donate his old clothing the other day and again took my vehicle. Or he went grocery shopping 4 nights ago and took my vehicle. And last night, we had a bunch of people over, and one of his friends needed to go to the store, so Tom said he would go with him, and he just grabbed my vehicle keys. I told him no. He just kind of stood there staring at me, so I said, "What? You're not taking my vehicle to drive your friend around. Start asking to use my stuff because I'm getting extremely pissed off that you take my vehicle all the time. And if you have my debit card, you better leave that on the counter too, because you're not taking that either." He looked extremely embarrassed and put both my keys and my debit card on the counter and walked outside. He came back in maybe 5 minutes later saying his friend decided to leave for the night, and then he went upstairs to our bedroom. Later on, when everyone else left, he said that I embarrassed him, that if it was such a big deal for him to use my things, then I should have brought it up prior to this. I told him I had brought it up several times, in fact, because his constant use of my things is really building a wall of resentment at this point. He has his own vehicle. He has his own money. He has his own means to do things, so why is he using mine? He said he lost his debit card, true. He lost it 2 days ago and is waiting for a replacement, and that he didn't feel the vehicle issue was even something to get worked up about because I am allowed to use his vehicle whenever I want. He's given me permission, but I refuse to drive it, and have only driven it twice because I had to in the past 3 years. He says I shouldn't have embarrassed him like that, and I should have waited until everyone was gone to say something. But I'm getting tired of saying anything. It's my stuff. Don't touch it without permission. I don't think it's a hard concept. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I wouldn't be marrying him, but that's me. He only listened because you made him look like an idiot in front of his buddies. Otherwise, he would have continued ignoring you. Is he in therapy? I've seen untreated ADHD combined with an aggressive and hostile nature ruin couples before. Comment 2. Change the PIN on your debit card. Stop allowing it by doing nothing to protect yourself. Don't marry until you guys have seen a financial counselor and maybe a couples counselor, as this shoot will just keep happening. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. So things have gotten even more complicated since then. After that night, Tom and I had a pretty tense few days. He was sulking around the house, and I could tell he was still upset about the whole situation. I tried to give him some space, hoping he would come around and understand my point of view. But instead, things took a turn for the worse. The next morning, I woke up to find my car missing again. I was furious. I called Tom, and he said he had taken it to run some errands and would be back soon. I told him that this was the last straw and that he needed to start respecting my boundaries. He apologized and promised it wouldn't happen again. But I could tell he was just saying it to appease me. Later that day, I got a call from my bank. They informed me that there had been some suspicious activity on my debit card. I checked my account and saw several large transactions that I didn't recognize. I immediately knew it was Tom. I confronted him about it, and he admitted that he had used my card to buy some things he needed. He said he was planning to pay me back once his new card arrived, but I was livid. I told him that this was exactly why I didn't want him using my stuff without asking. That night, we had a huge argument. Tom accused me of not trusting him and said that I was overreacting. I told him that it wasn't about trust, it was about respect. I felt like he was taking advantage of me and not considering my feelings. He stormed out of the house, and I didn't hear from him for the rest of the night. The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I went to the bank and had my debit card canceled and replaced. I also put a lock on my car keys so that Tom couldn't take them without my permission. When he came home and saw what I had done, he was furious. He said I was treating him like a child and that I was being unreasonable. I told him that I was just trying to protect myself and my belongings. Over the next few days, things between us were incredibly tense. Tom was barely speaking to me, and when he did, it was only to argue. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home. I started to question whether our relationship was even worth it anymore. I loved Tom, but I couldn't keep living like this. Then something happened that forced me to make a hard choice. I came home from work one day to find that Tom had taken my car again. This time, he had gotten into an accident. Thankfully, he was okay, but my car was totaled. I was devastated. Not only was my brand new car gone, but I also had to deal with the insurance and the financial burden of getting a new one. When I confronted Tom about it, he was apologetic but also defensive. He said that it was just an accident and that I shouldn't be so upset. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him that this was the final straw and that I couldn't do this anymore. I told him that he needed to move out and that our relationship was over. Tom was shocked. He begged me to reconsider and promised that he would change. But I knew that I couldn't keep living like this. I needed to take care of myself and my own well-being. So I stood my ground and told him that it was over. The fallout from this decision was tough. Tom moved out, and I was left to pick up the pieces. I had to deal with the insurance company, find a new car, and figure out how to move forward on my own. It was a lot to handle, but I knew that I had made the right choice. Looking back, I realized that there were signs all along that Tom and I weren't compatible. He had always been a bit careless and inconsiderate, but I had ignored those red flags because I loved him. I thought that we could work through our issues, but in the end, it was clear that we were just too different. One thing that really stood out to me was a conversation we had early in our relationship. Tom had told me about his childhood and how his parents had always given him everything he wanted. He had never learned to respect other people's boundaries because he had never had to. I had hoped that he would grow and change, but it was clear that he wasn't willing to put in the effort. Another thing that came to mind was a time when we were at a friend's wedding. Tom had gotten drunk and made a scene, embarrassing both of us. I had brushed it off at the time, but looking back, I realized that it was just another example of his lack of consideration for others. In the end, I knew that I had made the right choice. It was hard and it hurt, but I needed to take care of myself. I needed to be with someone who respected me and my boundaries. And while it was tough to let go of the relationship, I knew that it was the best thing for both of us. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for telling my wife I'd be an idiot to let her sister go? My wife and I, 30-year-old woman, 33-year-old man, have been married for 6 years. I have a good career, but since day one, I told my wife that I didn't want a housewife. I wanted a woman who works and is an equal contributor. She doesn't have to contribute the same amount monetarily, just put in the same effort. We have a son together who is 5 years old now. My wife works as a waitress, and she doesn't make much, but it doesn't matter because, as I said, I make enough to provide for a comfortable life. My wife complains a lot about her job, and I fully understand that and always support her in finding a new one, or even starting an education to get a better one. What I don't support is her insinuating that she was ready to be a stay-at-home mom. Well, I am not ready to have an able-bodied adult to support as a child. When she quit her job, I told her that she should find a new job or we go our separate ways. She got scared and got another waiting job. Our son is well taken care of. I work mostly from home and he has been very happy in his daycare and preschool, making lots of friends. We divide the chores evenly and I do all the cooking because it is a good escape from my computer job, while it is boring for my wife who works with food all day. Her sister and husband, 35-year-old woman, 45-year-old man, are in the opposite situation. Her husband owns his own company and he has been begging his wife to quit working and stay with the children. She adamantly refuses, and it has been a subject of contention in their relationship. Her husband thinks that he makes more than enough, and the wife loves her career. My wife has made it a habit to make comments about how she should have married the brother-in-law instead, and I married the sister. I made it clear that it wasn't funny, especially when it is in the company of her sister and her husband. She complains how it is unfair that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom but isn't allowed. Last time it was on Saturday when we were invited for dinner with her sister and her husband. That's when my wife started complaining about her new job, and her sister and husband were very sympathetic. Then she said, "We should just swap spouses here. This is so unfair that I am stuck, and my sister doesn't even know how lucky she is." I was very angry and said, "Well, only an idiot would let your sister go." Everyone chuckled, but my wife and the husband said, "Yeah, I would be a moron to let a woman like this go," and kissed his wife. My wife became very silent afterward, and she hasn't spoken to me since. I think I hurt her, and honestly, I think I am done because I am exhausted. To add, thank you everyone, you have provided me with good perspective, and I didn't expect so many replies. The majority seem to think like me, so I'm glad that I am not completely off the rocker. I have been thinking about my situation for some years now, and I don't remember when I was last happy. Every time I approached divorce, she would promise to start looking for schools and change careers. It will probably happen now too, but we need to rip the Band-Aid off this relationship. Neither of us is happy. We don't have alimony here, and no child support since our son will have divided time between us. She will have to find a new job or work more hours at her current job to provide for herself until if she finds a new provider. But that won't be my problem anymore. I am done. Thanks. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I can't say if not the idiot or you're the idiot because there's a lot going on here. 1. You're making your wife work in a job she hates. You said yourself you can provide enough for both of you to live comfortably. 2. You guys don't have great communication. 3. You said you don't want a housewife, but you only want someone to be an equal contributor. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and she puts in as many, if not more, hours than I do. You claim the equality is on effort, work, and not money, so I don't see how being a stay-at-home mom wouldn't qualify for the effort. 4. You guys are not on the same page. It's hard to function as a team if you're both envisioning different end goals. So I can't say if you're the idiot or not the idiot, but I would recommend marriage counseling. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Staying at home parenting only works when both sides agree to it. It's not a free get-out-of-working card that you pull and try to manipulate your spouse into. In addition to the crap she pulled with the brother-in-law, which is pure disrespect to all the other 3 at the table, simultaneously insinuating that 1, the brother-in-law would have picked her over his wife, 2, that his wife, her sister, can be easily replaced, and 3, that her husband, Op, is just as easily replaced for someone with the ability to let her stay at home and be a freeloader. Your response may be harsh, but she deserves it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this. So, after that dinner incident, things got even more tense at home. My wife and I barely spoke, and when we did, it was just about our son or basic household stuff. I could tell she was still hurt by what I said, but I was also tired of her constant complaints and the way she kept bringing up the idea of swapping spouses. It felt like we were both just going through the motions, waiting for something to give. On Monday, I decided to take a risk. I sat her down and told her that we needed to have a serious talk about our future. I told her that I couldn't keep living like this, feeling like we were both trapped in a situation that neither of us wanted. I suggested that we try couples therapy one last time before making any final decisions about divorce. She was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. We scheduled our first session for the following day. The therapy session was intense. The therapist asked us to be completely honest about our feelings and what we wanted from the relationship. My wife admitted that she felt unappreciated and trapped in a job she hated. She said she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom because she felt like she was failing at everything else. I told her that I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and that her constant complaints and comments about swapping spouses were hurtful and disrespectful. The therapist helped us see that we were both stuck in a cycle of resentment and frustration. She suggested that we try to find a compromise that would make both of us happy. My wife agreed to start looking into online courses that she could take to improve her job prospects while still being able to spend more time at home. I agreed to be more supportive and understanding of her feelings. Over the next few days, things started to improve. My wife found a few online courses that she was interested in and started researching how to enroll. She also started looking for part-time jobs that would give her more flexibility. I could see that she was making an effort, and it made me feel more hopeful about our future. However, just when things seemed to be getting better, we hit another bump in the road. On Thursday, my wife came home from work in tears. She had been fired from her job for being late too many times. She was devastated and felt like a complete failure. I tried to comfort her, but she was inconsolable. She said that she didn't know what to do and that she felt like she was letting everyone down. I knew that this was a make-or-break moment for us. I could either let her wallow in her misery and risk our relationship falling apart, or I could step up and support her in a way that I hadn't before. I chose the latter. I told her that we would get through this together and that I would help her find a new job and enroll in the online courses she had been looking at. I also suggested that she take some time to figure out what she really wanted to do with her life. Over the next few days, we worked together to update her resume and apply for new jobs. She also enrolled in an online course that would help her get a certification in a field she was interested in. It was a lot of work, but I could see that she was starting to feel more hopeful and motivated. In the meantime, I took on more of the household chores and spent more time with our son to give her the space she needed to focus on her job search and studies. It wasn't easy, but I knew that it was necessary if we were going to make our relationship work. As we worked through these challenges, I started to see a different side of my wife. She was more determined and resilient than I had given her credit for. She was also more appreciative of my support and started to show more interest in my work and hobbies. It felt like we were finally starting to connect on a deeper level. One night, as we were sitting on the couch after putting our son to bed, my wife opened up to me about her childhood. She told me that her parents had always put a lot of pressure on her to succeed, and that she had always felt like she was never good enough. She said that she had carried those feelings into our marriage, and that it had made her feel like she was constantly failing. It was a heartbreaking revelation, but it helped me understand why she had been so unhappy. I shared some of my own struggles with her, including the pressure I felt to provide for our family and the fear that I wasn't doing enough to make her happy. It was a vulnerable and emotional conversation, but it brought us closer together. We both realized that we had been carrying a lot of baggage from our pasts, and that it had been affecting our relationship. As we continued to work through our issues, we started to see real progress. My wife found a part-time job that she enjoyed and was doing well in her online course. I felt more supported and appreciated, and our relationship started to feel more balanced. We still had our disagreements and challenges, but we were better equipped to handle them. Looking back, I can see that the risk we took by going to therapy and being honest with each other was worth it. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I thought we wouldn't make it, but we did. We're still a work in progress, but I feel more hopeful about our future than I have in a long time. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.